Kangaroo Court is in session and somebody's headed for an ego death. We have Macha, and she is one of the Morrigan, and this card stands for sovereignty and cunning and force. It's referring to when she was unfairly denied her throne and had to retake it. And we also have Mercury and Cancer, which is actually where Mercury is right now and about to go into the microwave. um, but I thought it was interesting that that came out, emphasizing that current transit right now. And there was a little synchronicity. Couldn't help but notice the numbers on here, like 420. Um, I had I pre-shuffled after I had a gummy and was sitting down to color, and I was listening to Tool, and I just thought that was funny. But the album I was listening to has the song The Pot on it. And that song is critical of large institutions like the church, the government, and we were just talking about institutional harm in that last reading. So it felt very synchronous. And I had always wondered, actually, what kangaroo court really meant. I've heard that phrase a lot, but I'd never really known what it actually meant. And it says, kangaroo court is an informal pejorative term for a court that ignores recognized standards of law or justice, carries little or no official standing in the territory within which it resides, and typically is convened ad hoc. A kangaroo court may ignore due process and come to a predetermined conclusion. The term is also used for a court held by a legitimate judicial authority, but which intentionally or structurally disregards the court's legal or ethical obligations. And it's kind of following that theme we've been talking about regarding manipulation and how the legal system ends up getting used as a strong arm against women, against other marginalized groups to overtake and exhaust us. And I just saw, was it a few days ago, that the Harvey Weinstein trial got thrown out because it was on however many retrials, and the victim, she couldn't take anymore. She couldn't take another retrial. And while that might not be exactly a kangaroo court, like, that sort of thing is functionally still happening all the time. And there appears to be no checks and balances against it, because the people siding with the people who are obviously doing harm, they have power. So I thought Macha would be an appropriate significator to look into this strategy, maybe what needs to happen to rebalance the scales towards fairness. I'm not sure. But what about Mercury here? This is an interesting picture too for Mercury, the staff of Hermes there, the caduceus. They're fighting with each other, and it's a seraphim. It's got 6 wings. And the seraphim, they're in the highest position in, like, the angelic hierarchy. They're the closest to God. Whereas, like, the archangels, principalities, and such are closer to humans, more concerned with human matters. Box, you will receive a gift, but it came out, I'm just going to say that's reversed. It was kind of sideways. But maybe that's part of the impending ego death. Expecting a gift and then it not happening. Because where I'm getting that ego death from is the dice roll. I got Pluto, first house, and Leo. So, big emphasis on ego, the I self. What about Cancer? So maybe this is over an inheritance or something. Thought I saw one flip. Yes. August? But it was in reverse, so last August? Something important. And bridge. Successfully overcoming a problem. And the fourth house is concerned with memories as well. So something important. A problem from last August? That somebody was expecting a gift from? That part I don't get. I don't get how this gift is related. Maybe you're in some sort of legal battle that started last August or something. That still feels hot. My tea. So what about... Tell me more about this gift. Because in this legend, this story of Macha recovering her rightful place, that throne, it wasn't a gift, it was, she was the rightful heir. And she had to go through a great deal to actually retain that power. And what is yours, rightfully yours, is not a gift. I could see like somebody manipulative kind of framing things that way. That like when they give you what, maybe finally give you what you were supposed to have the whole time, like you're supposed to be grateful for that. Like, no, you withheld this from me. You were an obstacle. You were a PITA. That's not, you're not doing me a favor by finally doing the right thing. You're a thorn in my side. Two of Wands. And this has always reminded me of Nauthiz, the Need Fire. Getting ready to embark on a journey, but you're going to need supplies. You're going to need what's owed to you. And maybe that's something that's going on here, because that's another theme that's come up, that transformation. The Lilith character, her transformation is being prevented, impeded on. Maybe she, whomever, doesn't have what she needs to move forward because, like, say she's trying to move or something, and fourth house does concern itself with, like, real estate matters. You need resources for that, and these days, a lot. Because in order to qualify for apartments, whatnot, what is it, like 3 times? You have to make 3 times the monthly cost as your income. Like, how, who's making that these days with the cost of apartments that are like $3,000 a month? So maybe there's this gift is what is trying to be reclaimed as that candle gets very flickery. 9 of Pentacles. Yeah, independence. It's something that impacts independence. But this is a very haunting 9 of Pentacles. She's got a gem over her heart. It's also kind of giving me Sailor Moon. But I don't know if that's like a reference to getting ready for battle. Like, she's starting to like power up, essentially, because you have to defend what's yours. if somebody is withholding something that belongs to you, something that you're owed, it's time to fight. It's time to meet on the battlefield, effectively, and sort things out. Because if they're withholding it, obviously don't want to handle this peacefully, handle this diplomatically. Like, you're withholding somebody's resources in a very difficult economy. You're threatening their life. They might not be able to address things that really need addressing. And long-term damage that is immeasurable. The long-term stress on the body. So what else about this Nine of Pentacles? Four of Wands in reverse. I mean, this can refer to a home. Somebody's not getting the home. I mean, I guess there would be a winner and a loser in this sort of deal. And Macha, she is that sovereign aspect of the Morrigan. The ferociousness that one would be confronted with in trying to claim her land from her home from her, something. Like, look at this card. Is that somebody you want to cross? Not me. Backed up by a cloud, a horde of crows, of ravens. Is this still too hot? That's not right. So what's going on with this home? Like, what's the deal with whatever's being seemingly withheld? And I don't know if there's like an expectation of winning. Maybe they know somebody in the court system. I don't know. But what? Okay. I'm just going with the bottom one. Or bottom two. I grabbed two. Third house, communication, and moon, perception. The moon is Cancer's ruler. Third house, mercurial. So it's like the same cards in a different form. Perception. And instead of two snakes, it's two birds. That's interesting. So something holding up this kingdom, this home, this asset, whatever it is, this gift. It's perception. And we've talked about that with like this whole he said, she said, and I mean, that's what a kangaroo court would need to function, is holding on to the perception, because they're coming to a predetermined conclusion. So they're not trying to be fair. They're not trying to be objective and actually uphold justice. It's not a justice system. It's a power system. It's a prosecutorial system. It's a who can outlast system. Who can beat the other person down, effectively. Because all the things that survivors have to go through in court and such, giving up anonymity to come forward and try to right serious wrongs just to see that the system that takes our taxes from us that we're supposed to be able to count on actively works against us. It's not for us, but it relies on us. It's not fair. Far away, dog? A distant friend is thinking of you? But it came out reversed. So maybe somebody more nearby? I don't know, that perception thing. Give me another one. A little more context. Chain. A chain of events that will affect your life. So maybe that's being communicated. So maybe this friend is not so distant. Could be somebody like warning against, like, do you really want to, as that clock chimes, get involved with something like this? Like, do you want to go up against a Harvey Weinstein? Because it's going to exhaust you. You're going to take a beating. Painted the villain, painted crazy, and like my answer would be yes, going up against this, because they keep getting away with it day after day after day, hour by hour, using women as their footstools for their success that they haven't earned. It was ours. So what about the moon here? And I mean, the real cost of that retrial not going forward is someone who's a known assaultist is free to continue doing that. And they're just going to be better at hiding it now. And I don't know, I don't entirely understand legal processes and how the cases are brought forward, but I think in cases of SA, things like that, the state kind of decides what gets heard, what gets assessed, whatnot. Except it seems like when these high-powered men are involved, they're in control, not the legal system. And so how do victims, survivors, the vulnerable, counter that? Because it seems like the only people we have to report the problem to is the problem. So what do we do? I don't know. But it's like this elephant in the room, and we keep pointing at it and like, look, it's right there. Elephants are not supposed to be in living rooms. What are we going to do about this? And then the people with power are like, what's it matter? It's my living room. I can have an elephant in it if I want. Even though, like, the elephant is destroying everything. Carriage. A journey, either physical or mental. But it was reversed. Perception halting. Progression. Just reminds me of that kangaroo court definition. Coming to a predetermined conclusion. It's like trying to get the Lilith character, the whomever is represented by Macha, to back down, like, based on all those things I just said. Like, look at how men win day after day after day. And people who we can clearly see are doing something wrong, they keep prevailing. They keep getting sided with. And somebody seems to be determined enough to go, no, enough. They say pick your battles. I choose this one. Especially if it's over a home or something that is owed. That's a serious chunk of change. Axe, forces working against you. Yeah. Like the deck is stacked completely against the one person who's trying to recover what's theirs. And these battles, they're so aggravating because it's like we can see plain as day that this isn't a just system. All the statistics and all the data, and we can see the disparities in charges based on the color of your skin and how long they last and how severe they are. And I think it was that episode of Women of Impact podcast with Dr. Jessica Taylor. There's this show, I guess, in Britain that's doing like a double-blind jury sort of deal. And basically it's proving that juries don't have results that are different than random chance. So it's, I don't know, it seems like there's a major overhaul that's needed. How does that happen, though, when the people in power are determined on doing harm? Regardless of what they say, like, we can see the actions. Like, actions speak louder than words. Seven of Wands. This is the hold your position card, but it's in reverse. It's like trying to get people to give up their position by exhausting them, by outpowering them. But I just feel like somebody's digging their heels in that, no, the truth will prevail. The truth will set you free. Regardless of how difficult it is to get there. Because it's kind of like, to me, it's like taxation without representation. If I'm paying into a system that I'm supposed to be able to rely on that is reliably unreliable for me, why am I paying into it? Like, what? That's an issue. That's a big, like, fundamental issue. And what just came to mind was the peak of the Mars-Uranus conjunction is on the 4th of July this year. That seems a little on the nose. What are these here? Judgment in reverse and Ace of Wands. It's like knowing that the judgment isn't going to go in your favor. The perception. The reliable unreliability. It's like walking into this situation with your villain costume already on. Like, I knew you were going to paint me the villain, so I showed up, like, dressed for the job you want, or the job you have. They have the cooler costumes. But it's so reliably unreliable, you can strategize around it. And I think that's where Macha comes in. That she won 2 battles, 2 like trying to recover her rightful place. But then there was more in the background, more sneakiness, like more like Assassin's Creed sort of stuff. That, like, she couldn't rest until those issues were addressed as well. As she knew, it's like anything but having a woman in power. So she knew where the attacks are going to come from. So it's like preempting. This is the 5D chess sort of stuff. So, what is she anticipating? Could be coming up during Mercury in the microwave, or just Mercury in Cancer while that transition is ongoing. Yeah. Let's see. Going with 2 again. Maybe we'll just stick with that for this reading. It's kind of interesting. Opposition. Okay, so she's expecting confrontation. And second house, resources. And apples were a big symbol in the last reading. And each position, we've got one card that has 2 animals on it. Only one that seems like they were getting along, but that was the perception. So a fight over resources, over this house. There goes the clock again. And it's an arrow through the heart, but it looks like it's also going through the hand, which could be perception. It's kind of hard to tell. And then there's the flowers at the end. These are very pretty cards. This is a Starcodes Astro Oracle. I really like it. So what about this opposition, this confrontation? I'll take all 3. Why not? We have the Star in reverse, guaranteed success, Lobster, financial pinch, okay, and Flowers, happiness in reverse. Is this the ego death? This is the opposition, the confrontation that was assumed, like, they got this in the bag. Because maybe they're, I don't know, involved in this kangaroo court somehow? They know somebody on it? And maybe that's not being disclosed. Or it wasn't disclosed and it was discovered and the discovery wasn't disclosed. Because that's kind of the way the strategist operates. Whenever you find out pertinent information, advantageous information, you don't just blurt it out like, aha, I got you. I'm a James Bond villain. I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm going to trap you so you can get out. No. But I don't know if there was... Because this financial pinch, this could be the gift that was expected to be received and wasn't. Could be a home, could be money. Something of material value. But they expected it, didn't get it. So what about this second house? another success card in reverse. Little emphasis on, yeah, this ain't happening. Um, and Cain, pay attention to your health. And in reverse, is somebody so wrapped up in taking whomever Macha represents down that they're ignoring their health. And that could be happening on both sides of the aisle. If you're involved in something that is ongoing, long-term, high stress, that's going to take a high toll on your body. And it doesn't mean giving up on what's going on. It means knowing how to rise to meet that. Like, I've been struggling to maintain my yoga practice. I'm trying to do that more regularly. And so something I'm doing is tacking it on to other things I do regularly, like this. Like starting my tarot readings with a bit of yoga before I start, getting set up and everything to change the mood from whatever I was doing to this. And so things like that are helpful if you're struggling to achieve something that helps maintain your health. It might not necessarily mean troubleshooting things to get them to work the way you were trying to get them to work, but trying something different, like moving those puzzle pieces around a little bit. And high stress can impact your creative thinking. So there's that too. So don't beat yourself up if you've been like banging your head against the wall, because that's what stress does to you. So what about this like double not success? What's going on here? We've got 4 of Pentacles. Interesting. 5 of Cups, the Emperor, and the 8 of Pentacles. And 4 of Pentacles, he's blindfolded. This is an interesting take on this, because this is like the control card. And it's like not being able to see the bounty right in front of you, being blind to it. And then 5 of Cups. This is like, because I'm kind of getting drawn into these doorways and this portal here. Is this like grief for the path not taken? For pursuing greed as opposed to like emotional fulfillment? Because this is like so zoned in on taking someone down from their rightful dues, whatever it is. It's like missing a doorway. Missed opportunities. Maybe even it's drawing me to, like in tarot land or spiritual community, you hear people saying things like timelines collapsing and whatnot. That makes me think of the Old Norse, like branching time. So if like you have so many choices, pretend my fingers are different paths, and the choices you make might cleave off one path to you can't pursue that path anymore because the choices that you've made have now taken you over to these other paths, and you've eliminated the potential for that path. So it's just, why would that branch of time continue on with you, and you can't go backwards. It's like the Rubicon. So in the Emperor and the Eight of Pentacles, this might be the Macha character in this, because that opposition card has two stags, and he's wearing the stag crown. So that's the winner. And a little beat down. You know, this fox looks very curious, almost concerned even. They've been working really hard on perfecting something, and they're all by themselves. Sorta. I mean, they're surrounded by fae, fox, deer, owls, so they're not completely alone. Maybe feeling a bit lonely because they're not getting the human contact or whatever. But it's like that determination on knowing that you're making a sacrifice right now to take your rightful place. Acknowledging how difficult it is to be like shouldering this burden for so long, but knowing what you're headed towards. And I think that's about the time, and maybe this is where Mercury retrograde is significant here. That's about the time where people will come in and try to convince you, like, to stop doing this. Like, it's too hard. Too hard for who? Like, is it outside my window of tolerance or your window of tolerance? Because it's very different. It's extremely subjective per person as to what they can actually tolerate. And yeah, you can get the blinders on and take on too much, and you want to be checking in with yourself. But you are who determines what your window of tolerance is, especially if you're doing something really hard, something really difficult, something that the people who are telling you that maybe you should lay off, maybe you should, throw in the towel or whatever, have they ever done anything like this? Have they ever stepped up in this way? If no, stay out of my way. Like, what I need is support, not deterrence. And then people will get like, well, I'm just trying to be helpful, and like, you've not once asked me what would be helpful. You haven't asked me what I need in terms of support. You've just projected what you believe to be supportive. And if you're in a difficult situation with somebody manipulative, they might have flying monkeys. So there's that aspect of it too. Which, if this is like a family dispute, which it could be, Cancer, references fourth house, family, roots, ancestry. Maybe there's some co-parenting, something like that, where you do have to be in each other's lives, and people will be nosy and they'll say like, oh, I'm not taking sides, but then meanwhile they're trying to get you to drop out of the race. Like, that's taking a side, actually. And then they get mad then when they stick their nose where it doesn't belong, that it gets bit. You put it there. What were you expecting me to do? So, no success, financial pinch. Where's all this headed? Because this seems like the clash. Where's this headed in the wake of the victory, however this turns out, which I suspect will be in Macha's favor. She's the rightful. Might take a while. It might be really difficult, really arduous to get there. But the rightful ruler is the rightful ruler, regardless of a kangaroo court that's stacked in their own favor. This could definitely be like a family court thing. You know, assets in a divorce, something like that. And it's like the rich person trying to extract everything from the vulnerable one. Like, why? Why are you just being cruel? Just another human trying to survive on the face of this planet, man. I don't know what people have against that. Midheaven? Pinnacle? And I think midheaven has to do with work, I believe. Where's the book? Let's see. The midheaven contains clues about how your family trained you to be visible in the world, your relationship to other people's authority, and how you step into your own personal authority. It describes the future mountaintop, the pinnacle of your work in the world. The midheaven is the highest point of the chart, where the sun would be at midday. This is the most public, visible point of the chart, like the flagpole on the top of your personal castle. So perception, for sure, how you're seen in the public eye. And how you're seen in the public eye can be such a projection of themselves, especially if they haven't done their own shadow work and they're just kind of spewing onto other people their unconscious stuff. But I thought it was interesting how your family trained you to be visible in the world. So I talk a lot about like psychological conditioning, and like I was so traumatized I had to go to therapy to find out what I was experiencing isn't normal. And one of the things that really grinds my gears, especially about spiritualists and even just influencers in general, it's like they'll say things, really reductive phrases, like, oh, it's a self-worth thing. You have to love yourself. Just to move through these issues, like that blame shifting gets pointed at what I'm experiencing. Even things like abuse, financial abuse and whatnot, like I'm putting myself in those situations because I lack self-worth. No. I'm ending up in those situations because I was conditioned, I was groomed to not recognize them. It's like hardwire programming that I had to deconstruct in my psyche, and it was one of the most violent psychic experiences I've ever had to go through, because it's very confusing, and the people I'm supposed to be able to count on, there's that whole potential for them to have antagonistic personalities as well. And they might be suffering from similar things, similar perceptions to me too, thinking these things are normal when they're not. It's not a self-worth issue. If it was a self-worth issue, I wouldn't have been able to rescue myself from the Matrix, essentially. I don't like those little reductive phrases. And I think it's also why I end up explaining things so much, because there's a lot of relevant context that gets left out. That sometimes, if it's never been spelled out to you, you don't understand. Especially with trauma being so counterintuitive in many ways. But what else about this midheaven? The flagpole, the my billboard to the world. It's always funny to hear how other people perceive me. Like, I don't think that assessment was actually about me. I'm going with this one. Virgo. Digest. 6th house. Perception. Not perception. Perfection. So maybe there's some perfectionist tendencies going on. And that perfect victim, that's what I'm getting from this. The system kind of demands that we be these perfect victims, but you can't be. There's never a perfect victim. It's never good enough. Again, back to the Dr. Jessica Taylor episode. She brought up such an interesting and devastating statistic that she noticed through her own research, that if a woman is perceived to be too attractive, then the jury will assume that she was leading on the assailant, that she was somehow culpable in their inability to hear the word no or read body language. And if a woman is perceived to be unattractive, like overweight, something like that, it's like, why would he assault you? You're not pretty enough. Disgusting! Oh my goodness! There's such a fundamental misunderstanding that this is about power and control and violating someone else. That, like, ugh. This is not a good system. It's so incredibly biased, and there's not enough checks and balances to control for that bias. For life experience, for education, for cultural expectations of the way people interact. It's a tough problem, no doubt. What about this midheaven? Crown? Ah, Macha, the Emperor. Honor and respect will come to you. And horseshoe, good luck. So the victor, midheaven is the victor. That's nice. Everybody's seeing that. I kind of suspect, though, that that's not the way one was trained to present oneself to the outside world, is as the victor. But maybe that's what a big part of this journey is about. Whatever's going on here is reclaiming what you're putting out to the world and actually projecting how you want to be seen, not how you were trained to be seen. Especially if you've gone through childhood trauma and things like that. Those fawn responses can be really interesting in the way they like mess you up, but those are some of the behaviors that people will misread as to, well, how could you be the victim if you were still appeasing them and whatnot? Like, I was trying to survive. That's the choice I was given. Like, really think about how twisted that is, that I have to appease someone who's abusing me in order to survive. But what about this Virgo? Ooh, here we go. How many is this? 4? I'll take that. The little tea leaves. Career in reverse. So maybe this is a family matter, not work. October in reverse. So last October. August to October. Maybe that's significant in some way. Flying bird, news is on the way. But that was in reverse. And then butterfly, a change for the better. The only upright one in this little cluster. So maybe the change will just arrive without, like, the fanfare, without announcing itself. Could be. I don't know, I have mixed feelings on surprises versus being well informed. If it has to do with my money and whatnot, I want to be informed. And I know about myself, when I'm triggered, I can get pretty rigid about how things are going, because that was one of my many coping mechanisms in chaotic environments, like try to control them, you know, which doesn't always lead to great additional coping mechanisms. And it can bring out that, like, shadow Virgo aspect. And, like, my South Node is in Virgo, so it's very on the nose for me. Those control issues and, like, well, if I can just control the world, everything will be fine. Well, that may be true, but will you be fine? That's that's who we're concerned with right now, is you, not the world. So what about this crown and horseshoe midheaven? We have the King of Cups and Death in reverse. Death is a little gruesome down there, but the Morrigan is who is on the Death card in this deck. And King of Cups. Oh, interesting. Maybe that's the what's being projected out. That Macha image of I will close down my emotions and fight this battle in, like, a ruthless way. Because normally, like, the Death card in reverse is a change being prevented, but we have a change for the better. So this could be preventing the other side from their desired change. Like, that's the ego death, the change that they had stacked the deck for, that they had the kangaroo court on their side with a predetermined conclusion because this perfect victim got angry about being abused. Shocker. Like, they just went after them, trying to win at all costs, trying to take something that was rightfully theirs. But that wasn't taken lying down. And so I think that's what's changing about what the world is seeing of the Macha character here. They will stand up. And they will not back down. You cross somebody with either that Irish heart or just that, like, kind of archetype living within them. Yeah, you're in for a fight. You might be in for a beating, not a fight. What else about this change for the better? Go with that. The sun. It's gonna be alright. And it did come out sideways a little bit. That could be referencing, you know, the ego. Leo on the dice roll there, ruled by the sun. And another stag card too, so referencing the victor. So that victory could be eminent. And it feels like, especially if it's been since last August or something, it's taken a while to get here. But it looks nice. All floral and sunny. And things being revealed too. Because it's a card of exposure as well. Whereas that candle gets going. So I think if you're involved in a situation like this, you're already well aware of it. Already fighting for something that is yours. Given the celestial weather at the moment, I might pay close attention to that. And maybe even some of those deep dives on the various astrology channels and whatnot. I always like the astrology podcast because it's so detailed and does like the retrospectives and forecasts and such. Probably be in-depth coverage for the upcoming July forecast, which I think is when Jupiter goes into Leo. And then the North Node, the nodes switch, if I'm not mistaken, to Aquarius and Leo. Aquarius North Node and Leo South Node. That's coming up too. So that's interesting. But it does kind of feel like a big clock calibrating. Everything's getting into place for this change that may or may not be announced. I don't know. Because I don't think the Kangaroo Court members really want a lot of attention on themselves. What do we have here? A few. Just taking the top two. We have give your pet a treat. Always good advice. I'm sure they'll appreciate. And Ain't Gonna Drown by Ellie King. It's very soulful. I like that song. About sticking with it. I'm trying to think of the lyrics. It's like a lawman can't save me, can't save a soul like mine. It's kind of knowing that you are different than whatever it is you're standing up to. Because I think that might be a big part of this conflict, that the perception is trying to convince you that being different is bad. Why wouldn't I want to be different from a system that oppresses women? A system that favors people who are obviously doing something wrong. Being different than that is a point of pride, not a downside. And give your pet a treat. You know, we were talking about loneliness over here. Spending some time with your fur babies. Spending some time with friends, and if you can get out, maybe with your pets, you know, go to the dog park, something like that. But just being mindful that from the outside looking in, when you're going through something drawn out, stressful, difficult, people are going to be giving you advice based on their window of tolerance, not yours. Monitor your own stress, and if you do find yourself in any kind of distress, seek support groups, therapists, pets, whatever it is that helps you maintain your nervous system so that you can reclaim what's rightfully yours. So overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.